Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Oh, hello. Hello there. My name is Lee, and I am your ghostwriter. That's right. I'm a writer who is a ghost, and I am also your ghostwriter. So, I have been tracking your journey throughout your whole life. Yes, I am the one who's been assigned to jot down your particular tale. And I think we've finally reached a point where I can get down my first edition. So, I just wanted to consult with you while I get down the outline and get started on your story. Does that sound good to you? Well, everybody has a ghostwriter. Some people just don't know it yet. Yes, I was once a biographer, and it was truly my passion. I died doing what I loved, and so now I get the pleasure of following people like you around and recording your biographies. So, how about we get started on this outline? So tell me the overall style of the story you would like to tell. Describe that to me in a few words. For example, you could go for kind of a more loud and bombastic style, or more humble and reserved. You could try for a more commercially focused approach with some embellishment, although for the sake of clarity, every lie will have a footnote having to clarify it. You might want to be careful about how much you recommend that I lie on this. Just a little piece of advice. Okay, so that's good. I have plenty of experience writing in that particular style. So, how about the chronology of this story? Are you more keen to a traditional linear approach, or would you rather have something that jumps around in time a little more? A little Slaughterhouse 5 action, I like to call it. Okay. you won't need to dictate me the events of your life like a normal ghostwriter for an autobiography would do. No, I've been keeping an eye on you. Yes, from the day you were born. I've seen it all. Oh, don't worry, you are hardly the first person I've ghostwritten for. So, if you would like to start with a recount of your infancy, would you rather approach that from a more, I suppose, external, objective perspective, as if it was an outside observer observing you as you were an infant? Or would you like me to try to capture your mindset as a newborn? It might be kind of abstract if I go that route, but it could certainly be interesting. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I need to ask you about your preferences in this way, because while you can't choose the option you don't have any control about how your past currently affects your present, you do have the ability to control how you portray that to others. So, as we start developing an active consciousness and start developing memories, how would you like to handle the perspective from that point, since it is a bit more concrete than the infant? Okay. So, okay, you wouldn't like this to be strictly a chronology. You'd like me to take some moments to emphasize some important things you've learned in your life, yes? Okay. So, a few of these highlighted points that you've mentioned, what do you believe are the most important to you? Okay. Yeah, I remember that. Okay, so that's what you took away from it. See, this kind of information is why us ghostwriters ask before we begin our first drafts, because there are certain details of introspection that you just can't gather only by observing. Okay. And how about one that isn't quite so positive? Maybe a hard lesson that you learned. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see how that's affected you. But you can see the ways that that's made you stronger as well. It certainly come to have an impact on your choices going forward, for better or for worse. Okay, so I think we can get back to those featured topics a little later. Let's get back into the chronology of your life. So, your young childhood, around the beginning of your educational experience. This was sort of when your sense of humor started to solidify. So I was wondering if you would like me to try to capture your particular sense of humor in these anecdotes. I think I can do a pretty good job. I've been researching the reference material for quite some time. Oh no, it doesn't get boring. When you're a ghost, your perception of time is very different from when you're alive. So, things really don't seem to drag like they did when I was mortal. How many others? That's a good question. I think I've written at least a dozen autobiographies since I passed. Yeah, I follow the person around for their whole lives, and after I reach this point where I can have the initial meeting with you, I write the first draft and continuously throughout your life, assuming nothing unfortunate happens, I will come and discuss with you at different, I suppose, milestone points throughout your life. And that way we will end up with a complete story. And of course, if anything unexpected happens, I will be present to jot down the necessary final information at your time of death. In fact, I will be the one who alerts the Reaper that somebody needs to be collected. But hopefully for you, that shouldn't happen anytime soon. Okay, so in regards to your teen years, I know you had some difficulties during that time. How would you like to go about me addressing those sort of hardships that you faced? I suppose I could be euphemistic or more shocking. It sort of depends on how you'd like me to phrase. Okay. But all in all, the same meaning will be conveyed so long as you don't want me to be dishonest about this portion. Okay. So, how about getting back to one of those meaningful interludes that you wanted? Okay. So you'd like a special focus on that particular event? Okay. So would you like that particular portion? Would you like it placed generally around the same time that the actual event occurred? Or would you like this to be kind of a pop-in? Well, I guess the consequence of one or the other is that I guess a linear narrative that goes in chronological order is easiest for most people to follow, but it can sometimes be found boring and overly safe. Sometimes sort of shuffling up the order of events in your storytelling can add some interest to things, but the issue with that is that if you are to careful. It can get kind of sloppy, and people can get confused. Okay. Okay, so could you give me an alternative narrative to place there in case I decide that maybe that particular one would be better suited for later on in your memoir? Okay. Yeah, that one's really impactful too. Don't sell yourself short. I just like to have a couple options to flesh out the story in particular ways if it feels like it would be beneficial to me. Okay. Now, entering into your young adulthood, what would you say is the most important aspect about that time for me to focus on? All right. And why is that particular topic a point of interest to you? Okay. And how do you think, how did they affect how you interacted with people after that point? I really appreciate your cooperation, by the way. Sometimes I have to spend a really long time convincing people to work with me. I've even had a subject who entirely refused to work with me at all through their entire life. I wouldn't necessarily because without any real insight, it's hard for me to produce a story that sounds like it's actually coming from your mouth, which is really my chief task as a ghostwriter. You can read all these finished works at the Library of Eternity, which is not something that you have access to right now. If you play your cards right, you can read anybody's story that you want when the time comes. Yeah, ever since recorded history became a valuable commodity for humanity, the Library of Eternity popped into existence, filled with works written by people like me about everybody who's ever lived. Now, being a ghostwriter is hardly the only task that you can have after you pass. It's just mine, and generally the only reason that people ever become a permanent ghost writer is because they passed as a accomplished ghostwriter or biographer. Yeah, I appreciate your curiosity. Again, it's a real treat that you are so willing to talk to me. But really, I only have your best intentions in mind, and while I can't physically interact with you, and can't really tangentially help or harm you in any real way like that, I do care for you, and I've really appreciated being able to watch how your story played out and continues to play out. Okay. So, continuing on into your adulthood, how would you like to portray the kind of the way your perception of time kind of shifts as you become older? Would you like to try to avoid making this an obvious part of the narrative, or would you like me to try to capture that? Okay, so to help me with that, I'm wondering if you could tell me if there are any points between major events in your life like you barely recall anything? Do you have any kind of missing time, or I know it's kind of hard for me to ask you what you don't remember, but try to think. What parts of your life do you not recall very well? Because I recall it all perfectly, and I need a little more insight into your own perception of your memories. Okay. Kind of a balance. Sure. Okay. So, what would you consider to have been your most important personal relationship during this time? Important can be positive or negative. It just, I guess, has the most substantial pull on your life in that particular temporal space. Mm-hmm. And how did you feel when they did that? Okay. Would you like me to incorporate that event that happened a few months prior with them as well into that particular anecdote, since it seems kind of related? Oh, you want to see how it's going? Well, good luck with that. You won't be able to read this until after you cross over. Sorry if that disappoints you. There's nothing I can do about that, though. I didn't choose to use ink that mortals can't see. It's just the only thing they give me to use. Okay. So, we are beginning to approach present time on the first edition of your autobiography. I just need to get a few more things down before I can poof away and start working on my first draft. You should see all the notes I've taken over the years. It's not like I've had anything better to do. But yeah, the real work with starting a first draft like this is reaching back into those archives of notes that I've taken and then synthesizing that with the information you're telling me today. So kind of hybridizing objective fact with your subjective experience, which I can really only approximate without your personal input. So I really appreciate that you're willing to cooperate with me. No, it really doesn't, it doesn't really mark against you if you don't cooperate with your ghostwriter, because it's not a sin or anything to be afraid of ghosts. So we just have to try to do things as delicately as possible, but some people are just very afraid of ghosts, so it doesn't always work. But us ghostwriters have absolutely no ability to interact with anything physical. All we have are our senses and our journals that are provided to us. Okay. Do you have any personal flair that you would like me to go out of the way to incorporate into my writing style? Oh, another way I could figure that out is if you have any of your own writing, especially if it's writing about yourself, like a diary entry, that would really help me for being able to nail down exactly how it is that your voice in writing, how that sounds. No need to be embarrassed. I've already seen it all. Well, I guess not your inner thoughts. But I mean, your inner thoughts are what make an autobiography truly fleshed out, aren't they? So anything that you can provide me will most certainly be very, very, very helpful to my cause. Okay, how about, in order to wrap up here, could you just give me one or two more of those kind of featured points that you wanted me to intersperse some events in your life that you consider of extra emotional or personal importance. It can be good or bad. I always find it so interesting what people consider important in their own lives. Because it really is never the same from person to person. There's really no fixed set of priorities out there. Go on. Okay. Excellent. How about one more for me? Okay. Yeah, this is really great insight. Very good, very good. Okay, very nice. Again, I appreciate so much your willingness to work with me. I think you'll find that you'll have a much more fulfilling piece of work. With the finished product than otherwise when I don't have the benefit of cooperation, especially instant cooperation like you have so graciously given me. Okay. Well, it has been a true pleasure to meet you face to face for the first time. And I am going to get right to work on this first draft. And you can expect other visits from me in the future when I'm looking to update your story. Okay? Again, I so appreciate your willingness to help me out today. Okay. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll be watching.